So welcome back to the On Purpose podcast. We got Kirk McDowell and Sarah Jean here, and this is episode 3, to live a life on purpose and to flourish in all aspects of our life. So I had a couple of topics that I was kind of, percolating in my mind for what we were going to talk about today. And one of them was the aspect of trauma bonding or uh, the relationship that you have to failure, like as like wrong or bad, and and changing that relationship that we have to failure. So those were the two that were really coming up this week. And
Yeah.
so
That audio glitches back. So you're just using the microphone in the computer right now?
yeah, from the desktop. I think that
Uh,
might be something that we could I'll talk to.
Next week, let's add an external microphone or something. Let's take something. Let's create something else there. All right, cool. So trauma bonding and relationship to failure. So let's start with trauma bonding for some unknown reason. Uh, so let's say what it is. So just for a minute, why don't you say what you mean by trauma bonding, and I'll take it from there.
Yeah, so trauma bonding is like you're experiencing inside of your world this trauma, and you're going to your buddy and you're like, hey, did you, like recognize this? And you're relating to yourself as the trauma, as the victim, as like something happened to you, and you're going to another buddy to get on board with you and bond with them, and that's how you're relating to one another.
All right.
you know so yeah.
That audio glitch is real big when you're speaking, so I just noticed I'm a little distracted by it. So
Okay.
yeah, whatever. Yeah. Okay, cool. So um, so one of the things that people are always doing is most people most of the time are doing is maneuvering for significance, positioning for significance, getting people to see how difficult their situation is, or getting people to agree with them, or um, getting people to agree with how things need to be. Getting people to agree with how you see the state of the world, like how you see what you see that the problems are and how to address them. And so most people most of the time are in this pursuit of significance, thinking that significance will make you safe or give the experience of being loved. Now, I tacked on a couple of things there, but I think they'll bear scrutiny. Um, so we're taught from the beginning that we're not enough. Who we are is not enough. We must work hard. We must work on the right things. We must accumulate the right things in order to be enough. And so there's this constant quest for significance to either demonstrate that you've done the thing, that you're enough, or to accumulate power and reputation and favor so that people will assist you in being enough, like help you buy the car, be friends with the right person or something like that, get the right job or something.
Yeah.
So this ranking is really important. Rankings in family and rankings in community is really important. People want to have the tallest building because people think that makes them safe, or they'll feel different if they have the most points, the tallest building. Now, you can get a tall building in one of two ways. You can build your own building. That's by far the most difficult and road less traveled. Or you can tear everybody else's buildings down, and that's what most people choose because it's easier to tear stuff apart than it is to build something, right? So trauma bonding is that process of two people getting together in a conspiracy to tear down other people's buildings so that they can look better. or feel better. If they have the tallest building, maybe they won't be so miserable. So obviously, I'm not going to build my own building because that would take actually work and commitment and responsibility. So,
Yeah.
or what's left is tearing down other people's building. And then people build this habit, a lifelong habit, multi-generational for many people, of talking shit about other people. And then it becomes its own sort of industry, it's like you get your own sort of adrenaline pop, and then you get addicted to the adrenaline, and it's a pattern, it's a habit, and you've been doing it your whole life, and your mama did it, and your mama's mama did it, and so forth and so on. And so
Yeah.
it it doesn't it doesn't even look like a big deal at first. Oh, we're just talking shit. Well, no, you're actually using this divine gift, your word, instead of to build up yourself and others and to bring heaven on earth. You're literally using this divine tool to bring hell on earth and to divide us, to divide people, bring division and suffering. So it is just standing around talking shit. And it is it's this existential transgression that makes it sound kind of dramatic, but it's this transgression of the power of word, this divine gift that we've been given. And so, uh, trauma bonding, I see it as a lazy act of a consumer. Is the absolute cheapest, quickest, easiest way to maybe have a shot at furthering your agenda by making yourself look, quote, air quotes, look better than the people around you. So that's how I see trauma bonding. And then, we talk about trauma bonding here in relationship to gossip. And when most of the time, most people, you know, when they're not at their highest, most spiritual best, all the other times. 20 years ago, I had an awakening. Okay, but what about, the last 20 years, right? So most of the time, for most people, we're not in that high spiritual, we see the perfection of all things kind of state. And so, you know, getting together with someone and taking the easy way out. It's like going and having a beer with your buddy rather than, feeling your feelings and getting through to the other side. So you know, it's not even a bad thing, although people do get hurt when you trauma bond. People lose their jobs, people lose relationships, people lose friends, people lose business opportunities because oftentimes what gets said isn't true or is exaggerated, and it actually has real world effects for people,
Yeah.
which is why there was a time when I stood really tall on, don't talk about people when they're not there. It's just, you don't need to. You can talk about ideas. You can talk shit about yourself. You need to talk shit about somebody. Everybody say, I'm right here. So, yeah, the real thing is the trauma bonding. It's using your word for anything other than creating heaven on earth. You know, that's a little rigorous, but it makes a point.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it hit when you said you're using your divine gift of your power of your word to destroy rather than to create. And it's like
Yes.
every moment we have a choice, and with that, it's tearing things down rather than building things up. And so what another thing is how to relate to someone when they're doing this,
Yes.
um, is the difficult there's difficulty in that, because it's like almost like they're searching or looking for like this unsafetyness or like see like something's about ready to come at you again, and you're about to tear me down again. And so how to relate to someone that's doing the act but in the domestication, and how to wake them up, how do you proceed when somebody's doing the act, when they're trauma.
Well, yeah. So the act is trauma bonding. Let's just for conversational purposes, I just want to kind of put
Yeah.
some bookends on there just to. So, and then I'm going to call that a dysfunctional act. Now, that is an assessment as a my assessment. It's not the truth, but I'm going with it because trauma bonding does produce results, but it doesn't ultimately produce the result that people want. It's kind of like printing money to solve money problems. It solves the problems for about 3 weeks and then saddles the next generation with a lifetime of debt. So yes, it does kind of solve a problem, but it creates a bigger problem than the one that it solves. So trauma bonding can kind of solve a problem. I want to relate to this person real quickly in the easiest way, most reliable way possible. Did you hear what that asshole said? I sure did. Oh, we got relatedness, right? So it does have a utility to it. It does have a usefulness to it. Otherwise, people wouldn't do it. But it's been my observation over quite a lot of observing that the expense is higher than the profit. So it's not while it does solve a problem, it doesn't do so profitably. It doesn't. It's not good leverage. It's negative leverage. It causes more headwind than it
Yeah.
displaces. For that reason, I'm gonna call it dysfunctional. So I'm gonna call that something that doesn't work. And then so now we're in the category of confronting dysfunction. Okay,
Yeah.
because we declared something dysfunctional, and so that brings up another set of rules for me, which is, do I have jurisdiction here? Right? Is someone in my leadership program, in which case I have a lot of jurisdiction, or is someone, interacting with a waiter at a restaurant that they're paying their way for? You know what I'm saying? Like there are
Yes.
situations, a lot of jurisdictions, some places where my opinion is of no consequence, right? So I think that's important to be, where am I? Who am I talking to? Right. So do I have jurisdiction? Is this for me? Am I just annoyed and uncomfortable and I want to lash out to satisfy my annoyance and discomfort? Right. I've definitely been guilty of that. So that's another check. Like,
Yeah.
um, um, another check, is this really the best time? Is this the most profitable time? So I've now decided that it's not for me and it could be a profitable endeavor, right? There's something good could come of it. And but is this the best time? Am I a successful general picking the time and place of the battle?
Yeah.
So check, check, check. Okay, cool. All right. So far we're coming up to the starting point here. Uh um um is this person interested? Do they want
Oh,
to hear what I have to say? Now, people are not reliable to tell you the truth in this regard. People have often told me they are interested in what I have to say, and I can absolutely guarantee that they were not.
true.
Have people tell me they're not interested in what I have to say, and I'm absolutely certain that they were, right?
Yeah.
A third category is they're not interested, and boy, they sure fucking need it, right? But that's a third category. so, uh, so, uh, so then if all that checks out, I say, hey, I got something for you. Would you like to hear it? Right. So, and I don't. What was the original question?
The original question is that when someone's trauma bonding, how do you respond to that?
Right. So it's all right. So here we are. Right. So I
Yeah.
now have an assessment that this person's trauma bonding. I'm starting to get sucked into it. Now I'm going to draw a line because I've gone through this whole process and I'm ready to roll. Hey, I got something for you. Do you want to hear it? And I go, well, yeah, I guess so. Well, are you sure? Yeah, yeah, I want to hear it. Okay, cool. Well, it feels like you're trauma bonding right now and you're using your word for a nefarious purpose. And I personally have chosen not to do that anymore. So I'd like to change the subject and maybe even invite you to look at why you would trauma bond with me. And at that point, they can go, well, fuck you, go fuck yourself. Like, okay, thank you for a clear response. I know where I stand. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't have to go cognate anything about that. I know right where we stand. I appreciate that. Or we engage in a real conversation about what's possible. Yeah, like what an alternative to trauma bonding might be. Right. But so if I have jurisdiction, I'll press that home, like if someone's in my leadership class. But if I'm just out at a restaurant and I just have an observation, it's just an observation.
Beautiful. Yeah, and that brings me to the next question is what is the alternative, and um, with the awareness that you're bringing to someone, what would be the alternative, like the
Yeah.
opposite of trauma bonding, and
Well,
how to live that type of life.
yeah. Well, you could immediately go a couple different ways. You could like start talking shit about what's the best thing about that person. Hey, do you know what I heard that person say last week? What? I heard him say this most beautiful thing. Like, oh, okay, cool. You know what else I heard him say? What? I heard him say this. I saw him do this most beautiful thing. Like, oh, I don't think you understand how this trauma bonding thing works. So you can spin up rather than spin down. That's always, that could be fun.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
um, um, and you could, I like to recommend that they have the conversation with the person.
Mm.
Go take this to someone who you're actually like, go take this to the person whom it actually concerns. You know, that's a great way to stop people talking shit around you. Just I used to, when people would talk shit about somebody, I would like start dialing them on the phone and then hand them the phone. Who's that? Oh, that's Bob.
Oh, snap. I like that one. I'm gonna use that one.
People shut the fuck up around me and like nothing flat. Oh my gosh, like just complete no fucking gossip around. The word got out quick.
Yeah, yeah.
So, pattern interrupts, that like
Pattern interrupts, yeah.
show the insanity. When we live in an insane world, doing insane things looks normal, right? So you might have to do something that looks insane to highlight the insanity in an insane world.
Yeah.
So,
There's also a space of like where someone may be coming from, and how do you direct with somebody finding that within themselves?
well, one thing I talk about with regard to this is be someone who discusses ideas. Rather than people. So you could use something someone said to talk shit about them, or you could use that very same thing to discuss the actual intention of the comment, like the highest intention of the comment.
Yeah.
Like John says, words don't mean shit, and um, uh, the energy behind the words, something about the energy behind the words, right? It means everything or something. And so you could use that to gossip about John and try to tear his building down, or you could use that to discuss how it's really all about the energy, not about the words. And one would be discussing a person, the other would be discussing an idea, a world and language, if you will.
Yeah.
So once people see that, it often makes a difference. Like, oh, this most people just grew up talking shit about each other, and just it's not even on the radar. People don't even notice. And it's often like not a long set of words. It's a roll of the eyes or a kiss of the teeth or a sigh or something like that when someone's name gets mentioned. You know, uh, Stuff like that. So that's another way people tear each other's buildings down. One aspect of that is you can look at that through the lens of the feminine and the masculine. So when the masculine is afraid, the masculine will use anger and force because most guys are bigger, and that's just lends itself to that. And the world that men are genetically designed to move into is a world of physical confrontation, hunting, protecting, that sort of thing, right? So you're you're preparing yourself from being a child to be someone who confronts the world physically and powerfully. Women have a different orientation when they're afraid. The feminine rather has a different orientation of fear, which is passive aggressive, right? So men are bigger, so they get to be aggressive. So the counter to that is being passive aggressive. And the three ways mostly that women are passive aggressive, in the way that men are aggressive with force and voice and size, women are passive aggressive with attacking reputation, shaming, and rallying, like talking
Mm.
shit about somebody and getting all the troops together. Well, here's what we think. Like, oh, you're already outnumbered 10 to 1, and you haven't even had a chance to say your piece yet, you know? So they're both a response to the same thing, fear.
Mm,
And it's the masculine slash feminine response to fear. So this tearing people's building down is more on the feminine dysfunction, where losing your shit and yelling at somebody is more in the masculine dysfunction.
I see that. I see
So it's
that.
another, yeah. So
Yeah.
so women are more likely going to be the ones talking behind your back, and the men are more likely going to be the ones insulting you to your face.
Both equally. Like,
Yeah, I
hey,
mean,
something to
yeah,
look at.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's interesting how it was normalized for most of my life. I'm hearing people just hop on the phone and be like, did you see what this person
Right.
did? And it's normalized. And so um yeah, breaking those patterns, it starts with us. And what was the commitment that you had made that started that trajectory on the other side? Like,
Um, I, at that time, I think was already really inspired about being someone who could be a leader in this work. I think I'd already kind of caught that bug. And so I think
yeah,
I just kind of grouped into just trying to be the best I could. I saw a few people around me who I wished to emulate. They had a certain power and way of being and conducting themselves that looked like what I wanted to learn how to do and be. And I saw that this was a key ingredient. Like these people didn't gossip, they didn't talk shit about other people, they didn't tear people down. Um, they didn't use their power to control people, they used their power to uplift people. And
mm,
that seemed like something that would be important.
that's really important. Yeah. And that also brings me to the discussion about like having principles and values versus standards and ideals.
Yes.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, the standard would be, the ideal would be never ever speaking anything negative about anyone ever. And that's just not possible, you know. Something's going to slip out, an emotion's going to slip out. Sometimes things need to be said. You know?
yeah,
uh, uh, and a principle or value is being someone who um, who sovereignly surrenders to purpose and honoring ideas and distinctions in worlds and language rather than using one's personal power to tear down other people's buildings for your own significance. It's just a direction to walk in every day, like you can be someone who honors other people without having to declare it every 5 minutes or take some major action about it every day. Like
yeah,
when the opportunities arise, they're there. They're not, they're not.
yeah. And it comes what's coming up for me right now is the practice of awareness, like awareness of being on purpose and using your words on purpose. And it starts with a thought, and then it becomes the words, and then it becomes your actions, and that is what you're becoming. And so we think it's in these big things and these grand ideas that are way out there, and it actually starts within us. And to be on purpose with what's coming out of our mouths, it's that simple, just to like stop and think about what's important to you. And um, so thank you for that. Thank you for the reminder of the power of our words and the divine gift that it is that we have with that, to create and to use it for good and use it to create heaven on earth. Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Um, I'm reminded of what we have our attention on continues to grow. And so a lot of people keep having their attention on what they don't want. We call it worrying or planning. or thinking about it or something, trying to learn something from it. But mostly what we're doing is just repeating the same things to ourselves and to others. When we worry about something, we're praying for what we don't want. And so the person who's walking around tearing other people's buildings down, talking shit about other people, is also someone who um, fundamentally doesn't get what access to peace looks like. There's nothing ever good can come from just being someone who destroys. There is this natural cycle of life and death and creation and destruction, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about here people's um, response to their own discomfort and their own pain, own internal pain, by lashing out verbally on other people. So there's also a disconnection there about how peace and love and joy actually work. You find that within yourself first and then take ground, right? So um yeah, that felt important. That just kind of came through and felt important to add to the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. Uh, yeah, it starts with us, and we got to recognize when we're coming from fear or coming from love. And it does happen in every single choice that we make. So yeah. Um, the second one was in the beginning of this was talking about the relationship that we have to failure.
Yes.
So we do fail at this, like we were talking about with like standard ideals, like never speaking a negative thing again. Like, no, that we're in a polarity world where those things are going to come up. We are going to slip. We are going to make those mistakes. And um, how do we change the relationship to failure with inside of ourselves? Or how do you?
um
Yeah, how did you change the relationship with failure to yourself?
yeah, failure was a tough one for me. One of the ways that I learned to survive in life is to be really good at stuff, and to be really good at stuff you have to be able to do it without failing, right? So I typically would pick really difficult things and get really good at them, and that gave me significance or something. And so failure, having a powerful relationship with failure was not an easy one for me. Um, um, Something John says a lot is the key to success is failure. The caveat, it doesn't have to be yours. Um, that's really powerful, and it's easy to overlook the real power and wisdom of that. Um, Clunky is the new perfect was a creation in language to literally support me and having a powerful relationship to failure. Because another way you could say clunky is failing. How's it go?
Mm,
Clunky as fuck. How's it going? Failing. It's actually pointing to the same phenomenon, right? But
yeah.
but what they sound, they feel different, right?
Yeah.
So so when I yell out, "Hey, clunky's the new perfect," I'm speaking to myself as well.
Mm,
And so I still don't like failing. Like, so where I deal with failure the most right now is in my painting. And I have very little ability to imagine a thing I want to paint, put the paint on the wood or a canvas, and then actually have it turn out the way I imagined it. So that's not where I'm at. Where I'm at is I imagine a thing, I put paint down, and then I get something completely different than what I imagined, right? So to me, that feels like failing, right? And so on a bad day, I predict something, I fail to produce what I predicted, and I have a less good feeling. Uh, um, and so the fruit of that is less production, more discouragement, less inspiration, diminished results, then more diminished inspiration. So there's this descending spiral resulting
mm,
from a belief that my clunkiness is failing and that it means something about me. It means something negative about me. Failing is bad. And when I fail, I'm somehow less than I am when I'm not failing. So If I predict what I want to paint and then put paint down and then I get what I predict, then now all of a sudden I'm winning, and that feels different somehow, right? But the difference is only up here. So it's in my declaration of what's happening. Am I winning or failing? Am I losing? Whatever. So that whole mindset. So I'm still at the effect of it a little bit in my painting, where I have a couple pieces I'm still working on, and I'm taking a couple of different swings. I've tried different things, and I don't like the result yet.
Mm.
And so I'm actually kind of in stuck mode a little bit. Now, if I had put paint down and loved what I put down, I guarantee I'd have four more paintings completed.
Mm.
Right. So there's a real cost to experiencing results as failing and then having a judgment about that failure. So there's like an actual cost there, actual production. So I'm not selling my paintings for a lot of money, but let's say I was selling my paintings for $1,000 a piece, right? Well, I just lost $4,000, well, plus the two, so $6,000, all because of this mindset I'm operating inside of.
Wow.
Yeah. So flip that around to clunky is the new perfect. Yay, I'm being clunky. Now, if I were applying that fully and completely, I would still be failing, but I'd be having fun failing. I'd probably be failing more, meaning I'd be trying more things that don't work to get to the things that do work. So I'd be failing more and getting closer to victory more quickly, right? I would just have more practices. So the overarching fruit is that I'm beginning over time, I'll be progressing more quickly than if I'm constantly discouraged and sort of avoiding, right? And so right there, you can see just in the mindset are two completely different avenues to results. One avenue predicts medium to low results, and the other avenue predicts actually medium to high results. Now they could
Wow.
both be medium. So I could go low and potentially produce the same results on a good day. Going low, I could produce the same results on a bad day going high. But the potential, loving what I'm doing, having fun, means on a good day, I might produce something that's really extraordinary. And the potential on the other side is if I'm coming into it with a failure mindset, a judgmental mindset, and have a bad day, I'm quite likely to produce something that's really horrific, which I, in fact, have done on a couple of occasions, which is my current state. So I can see all that, and I'm not practicing it perfectly, but I'm on the path of being someone who's mastering this in this domain. So in other domains, I'm very failure resistant. I'm very practiced. When I do a thing, I pretty much know what I'm doing and what I'm going to get under a wide variety of circumstances and pressures and all the stuff. But that's not where I'm at here. And part of the reason I'm doing it is keeping my nose stuck in something that I don't like, that failure thing. Like I'm making myself, to the extent that I am, I'm indulging it still a little bit, and then also I'm making myself kind of keep going to the cave and turning on the light, and just making myself do that as another opportunity to practice being someone who does that, and one day I might actually be a decent painter.
Wow. The art of failure.
Yes,
Like literally.
yeah,
Wow. A lot of people wouldn't even do that, and what a beautiful way to be at the source of changing your reality with the relationship that you have to failure and
yeah,
something like that you don't like, or the way that it makes you feel, and you still do the thing anyways, because that's not what your goal is. That's not what you're after, is to feel okay. It
right,
is it's the purpose of why you're doing it is
yes,
to what I'm hearing is actually change the relationship that you have with yourself.
yes, yeah, because I'm not someone who needs a constant string of victories anymore.
Yeah.
No, I don't need that. And when I have victories, and I still have plenty of victories, I enjoy them for a few moments fully, and then, you know,
Yeah. And I also heard it's not about um taking the shot. It's about keep on taking the shot. and miss and fail and keep practicing it. And what arose today and what arises the next time. And you also mentioned about how many times, like on that day that you're like, I'm actually having a good day and I'm having fun and I'm in that and I'm producing and I'm failing all these times. But because my perception and it's all up here, I actually produce something extraordinary, and it's all about the mind frame and the way of being that you're presenting inside of that. And that's huge. It's keep on taking the shots, keep going, don't let it be stuck, because that spiral down, it doesn't just happen with that. It could actually end up in different areas of your life, because
Yeah.
of that. And so,
Yeah.
wow, that's
I
huge.
also noticed somewhere along the way that most people give up on stuff when things get difficult, and things that are worth it are difficult.
Mm,
So most people stop when things get difficult, and most things that are really worth it are difficult. I noticed this in my life when I lived in London when I was a teenager, and I think I was 15 when I got attacked on a bridge, and I thought I was going to be killed. And then the very next day, I started practicing martial arts. Now, I started practicing martial arts with a certain vigor because I literally was committed to saving my life the next time something like this was going to happen. So I was like completely all in, 100%. Uh, and I watched people who had been doing it for a while, and the stuff that they could do just blew my mind. Like it just looked impossible to me. Like I'll never be able to kick like that. I'll never be able to move around like that. I just just never. And then for whatever reason, I think because of this huge motivation, I thought I was going to be killed. Um, I really applied myself to this for a couple of years, and I got really good. I got really good at it. And I noticed that I could do all these things that not too long ago I was certain I would never be able to do. And something clicked. And it was something about appreciating the real value of sticking with something over time.
yeah.
And I just got it. And then I immediately started applying that to everything that was important to me. So at the time I was doing a high-end finish work, construction work, and I decided to get really good at it. And then I was playing drums. I decided to get really good at that, and I just decided everything I was going to do, I was going to just do it really well. And so,
God bless you.
yeah, thank you. So that found this conversation called, powerful relationship with failure somehow, and it was just a perfect match. If I could have a different relationship every time I failed, because I didn't handle failure well. I handled victory. Well, I probably didn't handle victory well too. I focused on the things I could do well and that were easy for me.
Mm,
Some things were just easier for me than for other people I noticed, and those are the things I stuck with. And so I knew that I would have a whole different game. I'd be a whole different able to accomplish things if I could maintain that kind of commitment when I experience failing. So somehow that got connected.
wow. What just kept popping up for me is it's actually changing the relationship that you have with yourself and the belief system that you were
Yes,
ingrained with. Like
yes.
we're not worthy, we're not enough. And, so just wow, the
Uh,
power of
I went
commitment.
from knowing myself as someone who didn't keep their word to knowing myself as someone who does keep their word. And that was that wasn't overnight for me. It took me a lot of practices, a lot of failing, but that is fundamentally, when you've said that a couple of times, and that's what I keep hearing.
Yeah,
Um, that particular change in my relationship to myself was a really big deal for me.
yeah. But integrity, with word, with love. That's the biggest thing that we here at Earthwaking do. Those are the foundation of which it's built here. And um, that's everything to me, and there's things where we're like, yeah, I'm gonna do that and go for it. And we fail all the time, but we get back up. That's the biggest thing is getting back up and having a team that supports you. That's
Yeah,
huge. Um, and to keep your commitment with your word. Just wow. Thank you for that, Kirk. Um, it's a way powerful way to change your relationship that you have with failure, with losing. We've kind of been drilled with competition and to be the best and to tear people down. And this is a beautiful conversation about how to change the relationship that we have with that and to flourish in our life with the relationships that we have with other people too. And it really is a gift. It's a gift, and it's a game changer when we change the way that we uh, relate to ourselves with the power of our word. So,
beautiful.
yeah, I feel complete.
All right, me too. I think you're
Thank you.
all right. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you too.